Apple just paid Google $1 billion a year to fix the one thing Apple was supposed to be best at. They rebuilt Siri from scratch, and it's secretly running on Google's brain. Oh, and if you live in Europe, you're not even allowed to have it. Let's get into it. So here's what went down at Apple's developer conference this week. Apple walked on stage and announced Siri AI, a complete, ground-up rebuild of the assistant everyone's been making fun of for a decade. New app, new look. You can actually see what's on your screen, remember your personal context, and do things across your apps instead of just throwing you a web link and wishing you luck. Sounds great. Here's the twist. The brain behind it isn't Apple's, it's Google's. Apple's new system is built on Google's Gemini models, and the heavy thinking runs in Google's cloud, on Nvidia's most powerful chips. And reportedly, Apple is paying Google around $1 billion a year for it. Now, the billion-dollar check is wild on its own. But the part that actually tells you what's really going on is why Europe just slammed the door in Apple's face. Hold that thought. To get why this is a big deal, remember how Apple sells itself. Privacy. Control. We build it ourselves, we keep it on your device, your data never leaves. That's the whole brand. So Apple, the company that spent years saying it does AI the right way, in-house, just admitted it couldn't win this one alone, and rented Google's engine to power its flagship feature. Back in 2024, Apple promised this magical personal Siri, and then completely failed to ship it. 2 years of stumbles. This week is them finally delivering by outsourcing the hard part. Now, to be fair, it's not all Google. The simple stuff, voice, dictation, reading what's on your screen, still runs on Apple's own chips, right on your device. Only the heavy, complex questions get sent up to the Gemini-powered cloud, through what Apple calls private cloud compute, where it says your data is processed but never stored. So the privacy story survives, technically. But make no mistake, the engine room is Google's now. Real quick, if you want the AI news that actually affects you, in plain English every single day, hit subscribe. That's the whole point of this channel. Okay, back to Europe. So Europe. Apple confirmed Siri AI will not launch on iPhones or iPads in the European Union. Not because Apple's lazy, because of a law called the Digital Markets Act. In plain terms, that law forces big tech to open up and let competitors plug in. And Apple's basically saying, we're not willing to give rival companies that deep level of access, so Europeans just don't get the feature. And here's the part that stings. If you're in Europe on a Mac, you still get it. On an iPhone, you don't. Same company, same week, 2 different answers, with Apple pointing the finger straight at regulators. And the market noticed. The day Apple announced this, Apple's stock dropped around 3.5%. Investors aren't thrilled about paying a rival $1 billion a year. Google's stock? Climbing. Because every time someone builds on Gemini, it cements Google as the company selling the picks and shovels for the entire AI gold rush. So what does this mean for you? 3 things. 1, if you're not on the newest iPhone, you probably won't get this at launch anyway. It needs the latest hardware. 2, your toughest Siri questions now travel to Google servers. Apple says it's private. You decide how much you trust that. And 3, Apple's also letting you plug in other models as extensions, so you can route a question straight to ChatGPT or Claude, or Gemini if you prefer. Apple's quietly turning your iPhone into a switchboard for whichever AI you trust most, while making Google the default behind the curtain. Here's my take. This isn't Apple losing, it's Apple being honest for once. They looked at the AI race, saw they were years behind, and made a cold call. Rent the best engine, wrap it in Apple's design and privacy story, and ship. Smart? Probably. But it breaks the spell. For a decade Apple said they'd be the ones to crack this. This week they basically admitted the smartest thing in your iPhone will be built by Google. And it's the last big keynote of the Tim Cook era. Quite a note to go out on. If this changed how you look at your phone, hit like, it genuinely helps. I break one of these down every day, so subscribe, and I'll see you in the next brief.